All right, let's bring on Gramps Jeffrey now. How are you doing today?
Hey, I appreciate you inviting me. Thanks so much.
Now, you've got a new book called I Don't Want to Turn 3. So, how would you describe the book, first of all?
Well, I guess the reason I wrote this book maybe is the best description. Living this past year because of the pandemic caused by COVID-19, in isolation, except for being able to be with my family, it gave me a special time to watch and interact with my grandkids. And I got to tell you, this was a real trip for me. All six kids have completely different personalities, and the thing they have in common is their sense of curiosity. So that's really the basis for the book. It's a true story. It's based on how these kids are growing up, and it's based around Jordan's birthday, where he turns from 2 to 3.
Yeah, and I guess we can't completely spoil the whole thing and give everything away, but the main character, Jordan, he's a little bit naughty, isn't he, sometimes?
Well, the theme of the book is really at what age do you begin to take responsibility for your actions? Is it 3 years old? Is it 13 years old? Is it 23 years old? I'm a baby boomer. I got plenty of 63-year-olds that still don't take responsibility for their actions. So that's really the theme of the book is, what he does throughout the book is he's taking all of his cousin's toys, and then finally he gets caught.
Yeah.
And that's the whole, how do we resolve that?
And it's an interesting thing about taking responsibility, because I guess you have to have lessons in life before you know what's right and wrong, like Jordan has in the book.
Yeah, it's when do young kids start to separate me from us? When do they begin to know that they should be sharing, they should be reaching out? That really is the theme of the book.
Yeah, and older siblings stealing toys from younger siblings seems to be quite a real thing, doesn't it?
Oh yes, I don't know what it is, but all these 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old kids, they love dinosaurs.
Yeah.
They can tell me all the names of these dinosaurs. They can tell me if they eat meat, what their diets are. As far as I'm concerned, dinosaurs are small, medium, and large, but these little kids really know it. So, when you start to play with their theme of taking their dinosaurs, it really causes an issue.
Yeah, well, dinosaurs are great, so you can't fault them there.
That's for sure. And the other thing of the book is that we as grandparents and parents have got to get involved in the raising of our kids. This generation coming up, these kids that are, 1 to 10 years old, this is, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest generation this world has ever produced. When you think about it, they're exposed very early on to electronics and the internet and iPads. Their knowledge is huge, much greater than when I was growing up. When I was growing up, when being 3 years old was also part of the story. My parents didn't have cell phones. My parents didn't have the internet. They didn't have cable TV. They didn't have remotes. I was my dad's remote. He'd say, "Son, go change the channel."
Yeah.
I was the remote. So it's a whole different world today with these kids. And it's so important for us as adults to get involved in helping to round out their growing up between what they're learning on the internet and what we can teach them through our vast experience.
Yeah, because I wonder how the sort of maybe selfish element that everybody has as a really young child has changed since social media and the internet, because maybe on the internet people are more selfish or they think it's all about them. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but again, we've got to be, us that have grown older, that have gone through, generations of time. We do get wiser as we get older. And we learn from our mistakes, and learning from our mistakes. And I can tell you, we've all made plenty of mistakes. Is part of that wisdom that we have, and that's how we can help these kids cope with these situations.
Yeah, certainly. And also since COVID, maybe that's been hard. If somebody is an only child, if they've been locked down and away from school, they haven't had any other children to share with, so don't really get the same chance to learn to share.
Oh, that's true. And what they do, they're learning more on the internet. That's really their friends. And so that's why we got to get them all back to school. They got to be back and interacting with each other, because that just helps round them out.
Oh yeah. And of course this book book is actually based on your real life grandchildren, do they enjoy having a book about them?
Oh yeah, it was interesting. I had four of them here last weekend, and the oldest, Olivia, who just turned 9, grabbed the book and she ran underneath my desk with three of her, cousins, and they didn't know I was around the corner, and I was listening, and she was reading the book to them, and Jackson says, that's me with my dinosaurs, and Levi says, that's me in the bathtub, so they love. I think that it'll be meaningful to them as they grow older that they are part of this story.
And how much of the characterization, I guess particularly for Jordan, is true?
Well, the whole book is true. In fact, all the pictures in the book are based on pictures that I took. I sent them to the illustrator and she made them look like cartoons. But, it is a true story. So, in the end, they give all of their toys and everything to the nonprofit for the homeless down the street. And that was an idea that Olivia had come up with because that's what they were doing at their school. And so it all kind of came together during this 6 weeks. So I had the chance to see them all.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And what made you actually want to write a book in the first place about your grandchildren?
We as grandparents, especially now with COVID, so many of our friends dying and we're losing them, you've got to be able to take advantage of today because you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. That's the way it is in today's world. So I think that's really what prompted me to put this down on paper is, we've got to enjoy every single moment that we are with our kids and our grandkids, and the little kids look at us as adults, their parents and their grandparents as their role model in a sense. So we have to be that role model. They imitate us. If we spend all of our time on our cell phones and on the internet, I can guarantee you these little kids are going to spend all their time on their cell phones and the internet. So we have got to be able to step back and, look at them and teach them through our actions. And I think writing a book and having them involved in the writing of this book was just my way of creating a legacy. So hopefully as they grow older, they too will want to get into reading.
Yeah, that's so true. You have to actually be there for your children, which sometimes isn't always happening.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important for us as adults to plan on reading and getting our kids involved in reading to the kids every single night. We have to be part of this routine of the reading. They take their bath, it's time for reading. The benefits of reading for children in today's world are so much greater than ever before because the first thing it does, it causes a bonding between a grandparent or a parent and a child. It gives you a chance to really sit there for 10, 15 minutes and be one-on-one and to kind of get with them to appreciate who you are and what you offer. It's good for reading to kids to support listening skills. You and I both know, especially in the kind of business that you're in, the listening skills is the number one skill that we have as we grow older. Because as we begin to, the listening helps us to communicate. So, reading books to these little kids is just it creates that listening skills. It helps with the cognitive and language development when you're reading to these kids. There comes words that they don't know. You talk to them about what it means. It just helps them grow more than, when they're looking on their phones and things like that. And then finally, it's great for attention span. The little kids, they bounce off the wall all day long. You get them in your lap for 10, 15 minutes, it helps with that attention span. So that's why, I wish that everyone listening to you today would go out and read books to their kids. Obviously, I want to read my book, but there's 100 other great books out there that they can read.
Yeah, and of course, who are the target audience? I guess it's kind of obvious from the title that the perfect reader would be somebody who's just about to turn 3, but could it really work for children who are a little bit older or a little bit younger as well?
Yeah, the perfect listener is the one who's about to turn 3 because they're not going to be able to read the book themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but like for instance, going back to my my granddaughter Olivia, Olivia, who just turned 9, she reads the books to the younger kids. So it's great for that group. It's great for parents to sit down and read. But more importantly, and as importantly, I want to get grandparents reading to these kids.
Yeah.
So, if I can talk to every grandparent in the world and say, get out there and read the book of the kids, read mine, read anybody's, but do it, that would be my real mission.
Yeah, definitely. And is there a possibility for future books, maybe ones for other ages?
Well, interestingly that you say that, because I'm working on I Don't Want to Turn 4. Olivia came to me the other day. She says, I got a title for a book. I don't want to turn 10. I said, wait, you're 9 years old. Why don't you want to turn 10? And she says to me, I'm going to have to learn how to drive a car. I said, but that's 7 years away. I wouldn't worry about that. She says, and I got to worry about picking out a college and going to college. I said, that's 9 years away. Why are you worrying about that? So that just shows you at every age, that everybody's worried about what's in the future. I mean, think about it. I don't want to turn 30. I don't want to turn 40.
Yeah.
I don't want to turn 50. There's all kinds of reasons for that.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think we maybe sort of assume and remember from our own childhood that we were excited to turn another age because it made us older and maybe have a little bit of responsibility. But of course, we forget that a bit of fear comes with that, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just think about it.
Yeah.
As we get older, again, we learn more, but then we're up against more things and there's more things to fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it just gets worse as you get older, because I guess in teen years it can be hard because you'd say, I don't want to turn a certain age because you've got exams that year. Or when you get really old, you don't want to turn another age because it makes you seem older. You don't want to accept how old you are.
So what do you consider turning really old? What age?
180.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's not 40 or 50, right?
No, that's pretty young, isn't it, really, these days?
Yeah.
And the book overall is great because it's a great fun book that children will enjoy, and it's got a great moral and a lesson. It's got everything you need there, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. Well, as importantly, it shows how parents can get involved in molding their kids. There's two ways you can discipline kids. You can go crazy on them, or you can try to teach them a lesson, and that's what this book tries to do.
Yeah, because I like the dad's reaction, where he doesn't just have a big tantrum. He takes a breath and says, right, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, and you think about discipline today versus discipline 30, 40, 50 years ago. It has completely changed.
Oh, yeah.
When I was a little kid, my dad used to chase me around the kitchen table with a belt. We don't do that anymore. The dads do what this dad does and works with reasoning and teaching kids that way. And so I think that's a good lesson too.
Yeah, different times. Well, where are we able to check out the book if we'd like to read it?
Sure, you can get it online you can get it on Amazon.com, on Barnes & Noble, and about 100 other sites, or come to my site, which is GrampsJeffrey.com, and you can pick it up there too.
Great. Well, thanks very much for joining us here on the show. It's been great to have you.
Oh, great. I appreciate you inviting me.